Thank you. Good morning. It's really a pleasure to be here. Excellent panel. So I want to share a little bit how we think about dry eye disease. And the good thing is there are 16 million patients in the United States that we basically know because we have them in our database. So this study population or even the disease population is very well understood. And when you think about dry eye disease, think about it not as a standalone, but I want to highlight a little bit that 86% of dry eye disease patients have meibomian gland dysfunction. So at Novaliq, how do we think about treating dry eye disease? We believe we need to step out of the traditional way. We have a 100% water-free technology that we are applying on the eye. And we have two assets in late-stage clinical trials. And I want to share a little bit some of the highlights from the clinical trials and a little bit focusing more on the clinical learnings to share a little bit our experience. So first, I want to talk about NOV03. NOV03 is focusing on predominantly evaporative dry eye disease patients that have meibomian gland dysfunction. How do we know those patients? So in clinical trials, we looked at, is the meibomian gland involved? Have we low T-boot? And interestingly, those patients have more normal or elevated Schirmer. And they come with staining, and they are highly symptomatic. And that's, I think, a very important patient group that is currently really untreated because we have very little treatment opportunities for that. So how do we treat dry eye disease associated with meibomian gland dysfunction? So we have how does the drug work? So first of all, we need to stop evaporation. And perfluorohexyl octane, which is the active pharmaceutical ingredient, is really securing, shielding the lipid layer, reducing evaporation tremendously. And second, and obviously as it stays for 4 hours on the eye, it does it very, very long. And secondly, it has the ability to penetrate the meibomian glands. And that's obviously something that we find is very exciting. So now you can ask the question, how does this translate into clinical results? And I show you only the highlights because this data has been already shown before. So we did a clinical trial, 100 patients per arm. We had a dose regimen trial. We had measured QID, BID, and as the compound is 100% pure, we don't have a comparator, so we have selected by FDA decision saline. And what you appreciate here is two things. One is that over all time points, NOV03 is superior to the comparator. You have a dose response, an early onset of action when it comes to staining. And what is really exciting when I think about all these patients that are highly symptomatic, look at the right-hand chart when it comes to symptoms. And look at the VAS scales where those patients are coming from, basically 60, 70 on the VAS scale. We bring them down by almost 50% after 8 weeks. Really, truly amazing. So a few people were asking me, well, Christian, symptomatologic relief, that is basically something I would try first in artificial tear. So I want to share something brand new that we are presenting for the first time here at the Academy is we looked at those patients because obviously in the clinical trial, artificial tear and any other medication was not allowed. But we looked at the trial where the patients had previously usage of artificial tears and those patients that have no artificial tear usage before entering the clinical trial. And amazingly there's no change. This drug works on both patient subgroups the same. So you can basically say that artificial tears in those patients don't work. Why do we believe the meibomian gland is important? We looked at other subgroups, and here another forest plot. You see the entire population, and now look at subgroups where the meibomian gland is involved and where basically Schirmer. And you see the more meibomian gland dysfunction is present, or the higher the Schirmer values are, the more efficacious the drug is becoming compared to the comparator. So truly exciting. So look, how we do carry this forward, because I think this product needs to come approved in the United States. So that is our basically plan to demonstrate efficacy for FDA approval. We have, let's say, the first check mark on our first trial. That's the CCase1 trial that I just presented you some of the highlights because of time. And obviously now we are very excited because we actually, while we speak, we are starting to put things into place to have our second pivotal trial being kicked off later this year. And it's basically a replication of the CCase1 trial. We take the same study group and population and the same time points. And so hopefully I can present on Academy next year on the results. Just switching gears for a second, because we have another development that we call Cyclosol. That's a cyclosporine in our technology. You can say, well, that's a waste of time because we know cyclosporine, so why coming up with another cyclosporine formulation? We believe that product is very relevant because it's potentially providing the most powerful anti-inflammatory drug that we have seen so far. And this is basically based on our phase 3 clinical trial that we call ESSENCE trial, where you can appreciate on the total corneal fluorescein staining reduction that we are achieving, change from baseline magnitudes of it's 4 points after 12 weeks and having early onset after 2 weeks. And we have statistically significant superiority over all time points compared to the vehicle that we know is anyway pretty active on dry eye disease. On the right-hand side, you see this drug even works on symptomatology. So we have a trial where we are hitting signs and symptoms in one clinical trial. So the last thing I think that's important, in particular for clinicians, what we found in this trial, what was always speculation, is dry eye impacts vision. We know it's not visual acuity, but we have many patients talk about fluctuating vision or other functionality. And what is really exciting, we can show in the ESSENCE trial that patients that respond on total corneal staining with 3 grades of improvement, they are gaining more than 10 words per minute. This is really clinically relevant, and we believe something that potentially brings a new view on dry eye disease. So again, this program we are putting into place. You see the first trial has been already done. I presented the data, and we are very excited to run the final, hopefully, trial for Cyclosol as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Christian. Yeah.